Hi there, welcome to the Town Meeting Program. I am J.R. Lewis. I get to be your host, and no, it's not just the skip over. Gee, wish we had a show. We actually have a show here today, and it's brought to you by Cordova Wireless Communications. We're visiting with Kathy Simpler, who's making a run for State House, and asked for the opportunity to speak to our audience in advance of an event she has coming up tonight, if you're listening on the 20th. Cordova Wireless, as I said, is the sponsor, so we are able to bring you this program. It makes sense. It's a local talk program, and it's brought to you by your local wireless data provider, local cell phone provider, and that's a partnership that we really appreciate. We're just going to get right into it here. Not much is needed in the way of introductions. A number of people know Kathy, and she's going to speak for herself, as candidates do. So we'll get going with it here on the Town Meeting Program. Candidate for State House, Kathy Simpler on KLAM. So, Kathy, nice to have you with us here. And why don't we start, before we get into your candidacy, tell us about this event that's coming up, I guess, as people are hearing this on Monday the 20th. What is this event coming up?
Yes. Hi. Thanks for having me. Yes, we're having a meet and greet at the brewery from 5:30 to 7:30, so folks can come out and meet me and talk about things that they might have issues about or concerns about, or things that they might want seen changed in the legislature. So I'm really looking forward to it and meeting some new people. Okay.
And as far as your background as an Alaskan, you have a familiar last name for Cordovans. So tell us about being in the state.
Yes. So I married into the Simpler family. My mom's side of the family actually goes back quite a few years in Cordova. So I grew up commercial fishing. That's how I got here, and met my husband, Brett, and he's a grandson of Violet and Charlie Simpler. So he's from Kodiak, and we ended up getting married and serving our teaching careers over in Kodiak, and are recently retired. So Cordova is definitely a super special place for us.
Yeah. So kind of describe your connection to the community. Did you fish around here at all, or how are you connected to us?
Yeah. So like I said, my mom was born here, as well as my grandma. My grandma was born here, and my grandpa moved the family outside to Washington in 1956, but he continued to come back and fish. And that's how I got into fishing. I started commercial fishing here when I was 12, and I tell people that was my first career. I did that for about a dozen years, and it was one of those years where I was up here fishing where I met Brett. So, so I met him, and then I stayed in Alaska. So Cordova has I have strong, deep ties here in the community. Still have family here, and lots of memories, good memories here.
Good. What kind of fishing? Were you gill net, seining?
My family had a commercial seine boat, and so I did that. And then when I met Brett, he was a gill netter. So then I did that for a few seasons. And then together we did 1 year on my family's seine boat before my dad retired. So it was fun to do that together as a couple.
So you have a broad understanding of gear groups. That's certainly a check in your column. What compelled you to run for this office?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I've been a teacher over in Kodiak for 30 years, and I've been standing up for our students and families for quite a while. I've served on the NEA Alaska Board of Directors and have worked at the governance level on that board. And a few years ago, I was elected to be the NEA director for NEA Alaska, which means that I serve on the National Board of Directors for the National Education Association. So working at that level building relationships around the state and moving things forward in a positive way for our students and families has given me the skills and the knowledge to begin this journey. I feel really confident that I know that I have the skills to build relationships and coalitions and to be able to do what's right for our coastal communities. I am running nonpartisan. And
I was going to ask you about that part. It's obviously everything is highly partisan right now. You've chosen the nonpartisan route. So what does that mean for how you will govern, do you think?
For me, that means that I will work with anybody. I'm not putting the party before what's right for our coastal communities. As a teacher, I work with everyone, and I just felt like that's the best way to go. And I will join that cross-partisan coalition to help keep things moving forward in our legislature.
All right.
You probably know this, that Alaska is a model for the country because of our bipartisan coalitions in the state Senate and the state House. So it's pretty unique what we have up here, and I want to be part of that.
Yeah. Well, and you've said specifically, since fishing is obviously number one on Cordova's agenda, if I understand the material, you're running to stand up for our fisheries. So what does that look like in terms of policies if you end up in Juneau?
Yeah, this is one of the biggest local issues probably for Cordova and our coastal communities. So I understand that there's been a slowdown with one of the canneries. They're not operating here, but still have folks here to help our fishermen. But they're processing in another town. So that's concerning. I think we really need to follow the science and see what's happening with our fisheries. And we also need to support the Alaska fish first. We need to keep other markets out of our Alaskan waters so that our fishermen get the most that they can for their catch.
Yeah, there was just a story out kind of, I don't know how directly related it is, but, some pushback against certain Russian fisheries getting sustainability labels when they don't follow the same practices that Alaskan fishermen do. So, yeah, that kind of thing of having a level playing field and letting Alaskans being the one to benefit from Alaskan fisheries. An ongoing conversation has been, gosh, I can't even think how many years now, but this idea of the graying of the fleet. Have you talked to anybody in Cordova about that and how to maybe encourage young people to start getting involved? Is there any chatter about that?
That's a good question. I haven't talked specifically here to folks, but what I see in Kodiak is pretty much the same thing. I feel like our schools could be able to help with that, with providing the skills and training and the knowledge of what it really takes to be a part of a fishery and even support a fishery. And that's something that I've actually talked about at the federal level too, is increasing the funds for our CTE to encourage kids to stay in the community and be able to make a living. They need the skills to be able to do that. So anything I could do at the state level, I would certainly do that. We want our young folks to stay in our communities.
Yeah, well, and of course for the backbone industry to thrive as much as possible. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting you bring education into it because that's another thing that obviously matters across the state. So as an educator and an NEA leader, what do you think of Alaska's education landscape, and is there anything you'd be looking to do to change it or improve it in any way?
Yeah, this is one of the things that we've been advocating for a long time is forward funded education funding so that our school districts can plan. can plan their budgets. The way that it's set up now is not productive for a state, and I feel like families that have the option, they just get frustrated, and I think that's one of the reasons why families are leaving. So, anything that I can do to forward fund and make our education funding stable and predictable will help our communities. And that's stay in that. We want continuity and stability in our education system for our students. That's so important.
Yeah. Well, and how much of a role do you think that the state has in supporting the local districts fiscally and maybe even programmatically? And what do you see yourself doing along those lines?
Yeah, I know that Alaska receives a lot of federal dollars, but education has to be one of our top values as a state. We need to invest in our education. From pre-K, from all the way up to university level, CTE, at every level, we need to invest in our education system. So it just makes our communities stronger.
Yeah. Of course, if you take on a bill, not like a legislative bill, but like a financial bill, the revenue's got to come from somewhere. So I suppose that question has to be put out there. If you want to be able to invest more in education or any of the state's services, where are you on where that revenue comes from? Are there new ways to generate more, or does it need to be shifted from other priorities? Have you been able to give much thought to that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Our state definitely needs to be able to generate more revenue, and there's been talk about different things over the years. So I would support something that would I would support a tax that is equal, that is not harmful to marginalized groups. I would support closing the S-Corps loophole, and then just trying to find more sources of revenue. This is not a new issue.
Sure.
So, it's not new, and I want to be in the room to be able to help solve this problem, and hopefully with a new governor as well, that we can turn this ship around and get on a healthier track for Alaska that will benefit all of us.
I guess it's probably worth asking too about the gas line, which I don't know if there's much, if you've heard people in Cordova talking about that a lot, but it's certainly something at the state level that's getting attention. What do you think of that project and how it's progressing, and should it be pursued?
Yeah, my position is a yes to the project, but the final decisions there has to be a responsible agreement that protects all Alaskans, and I think that's at issue right now. It sounds like the legislature is going to go into another session because there's still not a final decision on it.
Yeah.
But it would provide a lot of jobs and for our state, and that's a good thing too.
Another thing that you have emphasized, if my background work is correct, is ferries. And obviously the winter schedule is not looking very good for us. How are you? What is your view of the marine highway system and some of these big gaps in service?
Yeah, that's a good question. The ferries improve our quality of life in our coastal communities, and to not have one here in Cordova for months is a challenge.
Yeah.
People can't get to their medical appointments. And just all the things that come with being able to take your car on the ferry. So that it's so funny that you asked that. That is something, when I was back in Washington, D.C. this past year, that was one of the things that I was talking about in our congressional offices, was to release that ferry funding that was delayed so that the ferries could run this summer. And I understand that House Bill 26 would have required a greater coordination with our ferry system and other transit providers in the state. That was vetoed. So will do whatever I can to get federal funding so that we can keep our ferries maintained and staffed, because I know staffing is an issue as well, so that the service can run on a more predictable schedule. That, like I said, the ferries improve our quality of life, and without them, it's really a challenge.
So you said you've talked at the federal level. If you end up in state office, do you have any thoughts about how to improve the reliability and or frequency and hopefully affordability as well? And I know there's a balance in there between the quality of the service and the cost, but what do you think you might be able to do if you're in the House?
Yeah, I feel like I worked. I didn't share this little part, but I worked in our federal programs department in Kodiak for 3 years, and the amount of I'm just wondering the amount of federal funds that our state hasn't taken advantage of over the years, because I know just at an education level that there's quite a few federal funding grant opportunities that our district didn't always take advantage of. So I would be interested to know how many opportunities there are and seek out the ones that would benefit Alaska the most and help our Alaska Marine Highway stay healthy and reliable for our coastal communities.
How much have you heard in the talking that you've done with Cordovans about the housing issue? Has anybody brought that up with you?
No, but I imagine it's probably like this, like housing is an issue all over, all over Alaska. And more of our coastal communities have transient workers, I know, in the public workforce and our hospitals and our public safety. And it seems like having housing available for some of our employees that do shift work in our communities would help fill some of those vacant positions that we have.
How good do you see the state having any role in potentially making land available or somehow incentivizing development in a coastal town when the town wants that type of development?
I would think that they would. That would be something that I would, coordinate with the folks in the town. Having housing available was something that I did talk about in Murkowski's office again when I was back there. Just that, if there was housing available in our rural places, we could help fill some of these vacant positions. And just, I was advocating for funds for the building of that.
Yeah.
But certainly you would need the land to build those places on. So I would work with our local governments to see what could happen there.
Yeah. The back to fishing. Well, not tangentially, I guess. Ever since Les and I got involved with the station, that's my wife, Leslie, and I got involved with the stations.
Yeah.
That was back in about 1992. There has been talk about diversifying the economy. Are there some other avenues, other industries, other sectors that Cordova could be developing? I'm wondering if anybody has talked to you about that, or if there's really been enough time to dig into that. And if they have, what are some suggestions that you've heard?
I haven't heard any, but I've asked about the energy here because we have, in Kodiak, we have some windmills and we have a hydro dam. So I've just asked a little bit about that.
What about, do you see a future for say remote work or, more use? I mean, we've got with our our phone co-op has the fiber broadband that provides the potential for remote work. There's always the visitor industry. So any other, like I say, any thoughts about, do you have any ideas about other things that Cordova could be doing to broaden the economic base?
Well, I feel like the Cordovans have done a really nice work on the different things that they do in their community to bring people in, and haven't spoken with folks about that, and I would be curious to hear about it. Anytime you have folks that do business, that anything that you can do to bring in people to generate business to make your community stronger is a good thing. So. I would be open and curious. Maybe some folks will talk to me about that on Monday night.
Yeah. Well, and so let's get to what you have heard then. What would you say are some of the top concerns that have been expressed to you from Cordova residents so far?
I would say education is huge, and housing is one that you brought up as well. And maybe not so much, like you said, folks working from home, but people providing ways or incentives for folks to open small businesses. That is something that I've noticed across our coastal towns, is that it's really hard for folks to open up a small business and keep it going. So what could we do to help incentivize and keep those businesses going so folks can stay in their communities? Yeah.
Well, maybe going outside our borders a little bit to the state level, although, some of these priorities may tie directly back to Cordova. I mean, we've talked about how, protecting fisheries, that ferries are a priority. But what would you say, as far as your state responsibilities, would be maybe your top 3 priorities if you end up getting the seat?
So education is one, for sure. And along with that is having access to health care. That is like I said, we want to keep our folks in our communities, but I fear that is something that's been really difficult for people on every level in the healthcare industry, or whatever level you're trying to access it.
Sure.
And then I would support a return to retirement. Our public employees need a pension to help them stay. Again, that goes back to the continuity and stability of our communities. A lot of folks come up here and get their experience and then leave, and we want them to stay in our community and give back. And statewide, those 3, but then also going back to our ferries are super important.
Yeah. Months and months of not having that. That's really would be nice if there'd be some way that could get figured out finally, so we don't have to go through this every year of will we, won't we, oh, we don't again.
Well, I was just talking to somebody yesterday about how they're planning on putting their car on the last ferry and then they're leaving it somewhere. And that just seems, like I said, it just reduces the quality of life for folks here.
Sure. Back to fishing, something that I thought of as we were talking about diversification. Have you heard much of the talk about the mariculture potential, like with kelp and kelp and oysters and that sort of stuff? Has that been on your radar at all?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So we have some of those. We have some kelp farms in Kodiak, and so I feel like that could absolutely happen here. And one of our canneries over there is actually processing it, and so they're using the buildings that are available. So
how big? Yeah, how much is that? How much would you say that has added to the robustness of a marine economy? Is it is it just kind of a little blip, or is it a pretty significant amount of increase?
Well, I think in the beginning it was little, but I feel like that it's growing because it's growing outside of our, it's growing around the island. So I think it's just going to keep getting bigger, if that makes sense. Like, you know, in the beginning it was just a small farm, and as people are getting interested and trying to do other things, that it is diversifying, as you say, as you know. And I, you know, when my grandpa first got into the commercial fishing industry here, he was part of the clam cannery. So you know, things go around and come back, and people change and do what they need to do. So I would support anything that would help grow our economies in a safe and sustainable way.
Stupid earthquake had to just go and ruin everything. Now about all that's left is the name of this radio station. You know, that's how we got our name, right? KLAM. Yeah.
Was from the cannery?
Yeah, no, it's from being the clam capital of the world. You know, when
clam capital. Yeah,
when it was known as that.
Here.
Yeah, and that's when. So that's how the call letters came about. Well, let's kind of bring this back to what you would most like people to know about your candidacy, whether it's what you represent or what you care about, or just lay that out for us.
All right. Yes. So I'm running for this position in the state house because I care. I care about our the folks in our coastal communities. I care about the state of Alaska. I've been a teacher for 30 years, volunteering and giving back to my community in different capacities, and have worked, like I said, at the governance level the last few years, standing up for our students and families and people in our coastal communities. And I know that I can make a positive difference in the state legislature, and that's why I'm running for this position. Well,
I have enjoyed chatting with you. I'm glad we could put it together. Certainly, again, for anybody that's listening to this on the air on Monday, the 20th, if you want to know more, you can go to the event. Let's recap that. What time, what location are people going to be visiting with you Monday night?
Yeah, so it's 5:30 to 7:30 at the local brewery.
Yep.
Up there on Main Street, and come on out.
Okay. Well,
It'll be a great time.
I hope people will take advantage of that, because whatever walk you walk as far as politics, the only way to understand what's available is through conversation. You know, this whole let's learn about our candidates through Twitter crap. It's just but this is not about me. This is about you. So thank you again, Kathy, for the visit. We appreciate getting to be involved here, and wish you well. I hope your event goes real well.
Thank you.
All right. Our thanks to Kathy for utilizing local radio to get the word out there. And again, her event is coming up tonight. For those of you who are hearing this on the radio or maybe listening on the YouTube channel on the 20th. Thanks to Cordova Wireless Communications for sponsoring the town meeting program and for the significant impact that they make on the economy by bringing in as much as $12 million a year. We don't have to go catch it in a net. We don't have to chop it down or dig it up or any of that kind of thing. It's just because we're members of Cordova Telephone, or Cordova Telecom. I'm still getting used to that. Cordova Telecom Cooperative and Cordova Wireless, which is a sister organization there. Now, if you ever have any ideas for a program, you don't have to be running for office. You don't have to hold office. You don't have to be famous. You don't have to be in charge of things. We are always interested in just talking with local folks about local stuff. So if you have an idea for a topic, or you want to be a guest, or you want to suggest a guest, any of that, just let me know, and we're happy to try to set it up. Everything that we normally bring you in the 10 a.m. hour on the radio will be coming up. You won't miss any of it. And again, we thank you for tuning in to Town Meeting on AM 1450 KLAM.